Okay, howdy folks this morning. It's a particularly complicated morning because at least at least I and possibly others on this call are either attending or speaking at this patchwork event today that started about half an hour ago, or I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes ago. Anyway, luckily it's running late because I'm supposed to speak right after this meeting ends. So I'm monitoring it on the on my iPad in the background. Um, so let me prepare the screen to share here. And as usual, we have a super packed agenda. Good. I see Martina's here and Brendan and Alberto. Uh, very good. All right, let's give it one more minute for folks to roll in. And all right, let me share my screen here. There we go. List and chat. There we go.
Hello? Hello?
Yep. Jeff, we can hear you. Can
Oh,
you hear us?
yeah, apologies. I was testing my mic because it was not connected. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Try to see if for anyone else who wants, let me see if I can get the link here. I'll try putting it in the chat and see if this works. Patchwork event. I don't think that's the. Now, 1 second. I'm going to get the link to this. I don't know if that's a live link or if that's just the image. Um, Let me grab the link from another place. There it is. Okay, here's the link. This is just to this event that's going on today. Yeah, okay. There. That's this patchwork event if anyone's interested to join it after we have our call here today. All right, let's go ahead and get going. Welcome everyone to the Decentralized Trust Graph Working Group meeting. Oh, let's see, I'm on the wrong screen. I need to be here on this one for, oops, no, that's the wrong one too. It's this one. To the December 10th meeting of Decentralized Trust Graph Working Group. And the first thing we always do is share our antitrust policy notice for everyone here at the Linux Foundation. Um, we also always check to see if there's anybody who's new to the meeting who wants to do a quick introduction. You're welcome to raise your hand if you want to do it verbally or put something in the chat if you want to say hi. And then we also have this page, our bio page, which I'll grab the link for. And if you care to add a little information about yourself there, you can do that. Page to create and that's there in the chat. Okay. All right. So back here. Just a quick review of our agenda today. It's always packed as usual. Martina, our co-chair, is going to start out by sharing a credential relationship map that she's been building based on the discussions we've been having. And hopefully that's going to mesh quite nicely with the balance of the time is going to be spent on the new proposal that Brendan and Alberto just posted on DTD credentials version 0.02. And then at the end, we just have a quick report from Nikki on risk assessment and harms task force. Scott's not able to join us today. He's traveling. And that's what our agenda looks like. So a quick check to see any additions or revisions to the agenda. All right. Lastly, again, any we always check to see any uh, announcements that folks might have, general interest of the group, and I just put in one that I just mentioned there, which is the Patchwork Conference going on today, and that's the link to. Whoops, no, that's sorry, wrong link. I'll get it again. I put it in the yeah, it's that one right there. Put that in the notes. There you go. And just to make sure everyone can get to all the links that are in this, I will also put the link to the meeting notes page in here in the chat. That's it. So anyone can get to the page. All right. If there are not any other additions or revisions, I'm going to turn it over to Martina for our first agenda item, and I'll record the attendance in the background. Martina, ball over to you.
Yeah, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, everyone. As Roman said, I'm going to present, and it has changed, by the way. In the meantime, it's called an interaction flow map, with focus on the PHC, the VRC, and the persona verifiable credentials that were introduced, I think, anytime last week. And I'm going to share the screen. Makes a little bit more fun for everyone. Wait a second. I'll be back in 10 seconds, okay? In order to be able to share. Sorry.
Sometimes this is what happens if folks need to be able to share. So we'll give it just a second for.
Joys of OSX permission setting mid-flight.
Yep. It's a fact of online Zoom life. Yeah, here she comes back. All right, Martina, we have you back.
Apologies for the inconvenience. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we're certainly seeing it now.
Okay. First, I'll give you an overview to make sure we understand what we see here. So this part in the cloud is a fictive community or ecosystem.
Martina, just a second. What we're seeing is actually the notes page or yeah.
Yeah, I see. Oh. Okay, let's try again. Which should not be the case according to Zoom. But let's try again, otherwise I move it to the smaller display. Give me a second.
Okay, now we're seeing an absolutely beautiful background.
Yeah.
But we do see you moving across windows there, and
Now the thing that I wanted to share with you is gone. Okay, do you maybe have the thing that comes after me that you can, until this is fixed with all the screens?
Sure. If we want to just change order, we can do that.
Apologies for
If
that.
Brendan and Alberto are ready to tackle the topic, then over to them. And yeah, Martina, go ahead and you can follow them once.
I mean, it should work. I can give it another try.
Okay, you want to try once more?
Okay. But it should have also had worked the first 2 times. So let's see.
Ah, there we go.
Do you see
It
now?
is showing now. And now it's full screen, though you probably want to, zoom in at various points there.
Yeah, sure.
It's all working.
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks for that. So this is the overview of what I want to show. Apologies again for the delay and the mix-up with technologies and screens. This cloud shape represents a fictive community A. I give you the overview with where we're going to start. We'll be here. The goal, maybe first, of what we're going to achieve is that everyone has a shared understanding, that we're talking actually like the same language and about the same thing, which is, well, identifying our shared understanding, but maybe even more importantly, identify different understandings of which we may not be aware until now, and then also identify open questions. We will have some time, I guess, after this, because this should not take too long to get into some first questions. Otherwise, this visualization represents what is on GitHub. You can click here, and then we can have the conversation later on also here. Okay, what are we going to do? We see is here number-based, 1 to 4. Pretty simple. Get a personal credential, establish a private channel between 2 members of the community who already got their personal credential, to then in the third step exchange their verifiable relationship credentials. And then, and this is the newest part, is one party sharing the verifiable persona credential. So now I lost my hand again. Okay, let's dig into here. So we start here. Here we have, I call it just community organizer. It's essentially the person who is entitled to issue personhood credentials for a specific community, like here community A or ecosystem group, however you want to call it. That community organizer issues the personhood credential, in this case, to Alice, and has previously already issued a personhood credential to Carlos. And so when Alice and Carlos both have their personhood credentials for community A, they can start establishing a personal private channel, which is here indicated in like a yellowish color and number 2, which they need to further on exchange their verifiable relationship credentials, which is indicated here with the purple arrow and the number 3. And in comparison to like the personal credential, the exchange of verifiable relationship credentials is bidirectional, as is the personal private channel between exactly these 2 parties or community members. Whereas the issuance of the personhood credential is just going in one direction. It also would require, for example, what is mentioned or described as the target and the source did. And here we also have the differences between PHC, personal credential did, and the pairwise private relationship did, which is an R did. In general, when you look at this visualization, you always have those grayish rectangles, which represent very high level but fundamental core requirements of what you see here. And also the credentials are only like an indication. We have what is newly defined, the rel type, which defines what sort of credential that it is, verifiable credential. Here in this case, it's a personhood credential. In this case, it's a verifiable relationship credential. So here is the rel type as well. This is new. And we have an issuer and we have the credential subject. This is essentially the case in all the different credential types or rel types. And then you see it indicated with the 3 dots. There's a bunch of other attributes or claims that are within the credential, but we're not focusing on this. This is really should be kind of an instrument to make sure that we all understand like the basics and the foundations of this. Just to stick with what was already there, number 1 to 3, those connections, let's put it that way, they are edges when we go a level higher or deeper, depending on how you look at it. When we start talking about the decentralized trust graph. So these colored connections are exactly what in the end is continuously building the decentralized trust graph. And if we move down, it's just grayed out, but to give an understanding of how this evolves. Here we have Bob, for example. Oh, there's 3 times Bob. Okay, that's my mistake, apologies. So these are Bob and 2 of his colleagues who happen to also be named Bob in this case, but these are 3 different people. And you see each of them also has a PHC issued, and then they can start building their different relationships via the VRCs. And all these colored lines, they add to the decentralized trust graph over here. So now number 4, what's a little bit newer or the newest concept here is the personas, which will be, should I put that? Which could be created in that sense via each a separate credential. And this credential type or rel type is called verifiable persona credential, which is built very, very similar to the verifiable relationship credential, but it doesn't actually form a new edge as the other 2 credential types did. Instead, it adds more of a label to an already existing relationship between 2 parties. So here, for example, Alice, and say, oh, now I have established the relationship with Carlos. We have exchanged verifiable relationship credentials. And now I want to share my OS developer and politician persona with Carlos. So each of them have their own credential, and she can add it kind of a label to the connection or relationship that they already have. So this is an additional important fact, that it's not, in that sense, adding an additional edge to the decentralized trust graph. Yeah, this was like a quick overview. As I mentioned, it's meant to help further develop the work in this direction and to make sure that everyone has a shared understanding, help raising questions, and also help novice people who are new to the group to get a quick overview. So I think we still have time for a few questions here, right, Roman? Or
Yeah, we have
what's the time?
yeah. Let's say we have 3 minutes for questions, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
perfect. And I like the fact that the thick lines show the actual edges in the decentralized trust graph. That's a nice touch. Okay, questions for Martina about this. I think it's a very nice compliment for what Alberto and Brendan will be showing shortly.
I mean, when am I getting a chance to look over this myself? I mean, I can't absorb this
Yeah.
right now. So, you're going to have a link available sometime soon?
I was
Yeah, the link
gonna say, go ahead.
the link is currently in the, how do you call that, Roman? In
In the
our,
meeting page,
yeah, exactly.
I can
In the meeting
grab it
page,
there
but
and put it in the chat. Go
we're
ahead.
going to change it soon because I'm not sure you can take a look at it when you click on the link, but I'm not sure you can actually add some comments or changes.
I don't need to do that. Just looking is enough. Thanks. So I can zoom in.
Yeah.
Oh, map. Okay. I'm putting it in here. Oh, that's right. The new Zoom chat copies the actual, but that should be the live link to Mira to look directly at that. Cool. Any other questions from Martina?
Or to anyone. I mean,
Yeah, so this is Riza.
hi, Reza.
Yeah, I do have a question. Let me just move your screen over here so I can look at you. So when you show the example here of a community manager introducing two members and then they form a relationship after that. Is the ongoing relationship dependent on that community manager, or does it become independent? Example being Scott Perry introduced me to Drummond, and now Drummond and I have a connection. If Scott Perry were to go away, Drummond and I still have a connection. However, in other cases where the community manager is the arbiter and the gatekeeper of a community, they would have the ability to revoke membership of individuals to a community. And so the connection that two people had by virtue of the community manager's introduction would then dissolve and disappear. So can you just explore those two use cases?
Yeah, the community manager, first of all, has not to be called community manager. It's just a
Yes.
term that I used in order to show that this is kind of the person in charge for the community or ecosystem. But that doesn't mean that the person is going to introduce you to someone. This only means that the person is kind of accepting you within the community. And it could also be multiple people, not just, tied to one. But you need to get a personhood credential, right, to be part of the community first. And the community organizer or the community organizers are the ones who can issue this personhood credential to you. But with regard to establishing a connection via the personal private channel and then the verifiable relationship credentials, that's all you. And the community manager cannot just retrieve you from those connections.
Okay.
Unless Drummond something
So
changed.
understood. And do we need those two different use cases? For instance, when LinkedIn, so I've got a connection with Drummond via LinkedIn. If LinkedIn, the platform, were to disappear, and that was my only way of connecting with Drummond, then my connection with Drummond is lost.
This is the magic of the decentralized trust graph.
Okay.
You took the words out of my mouth, Martina.
I think Drummond can way better explain that with yeah.
Okay. Now I want to hear
idea.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That's the beauty of it, is that the community could be someplace where we meet, we are introduced, and we can verify that we have a relationship within the context of that community when we both have PhDs in that community. But once we form a VRC, we're connected directly. And
Fantastic.
yeah, and that will last as long, and we can connect in the context of as many communities that we're part of. I think the question already came up if you meet someone that's, you're not in the same community, right? But you connect over the internet, however, right? You can still form a VRC. The point of the community part is if you want to make proofs against your trust graph, those that are not in the same community don't count because it's too easy to try and put together some kind of, basically Sybil proof. So being in the same community is where you get that strong proof. Yeah, you've actually you're both in that community. But again, the VRCs are that's the whole point of why we felt that personal credentials, while valuable, were not enough to get a rich decentralized trust graph. You need to have peer-to-peer relationships. So good. I hope that answered that question. And Martina is a great lead-in to.
Can I briefly add?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a very small thing to the decentralized. It taps a little bit into the use case that you mentioned second, Reza. So what happens if, for example, the community disappears? And Drummond, you may correct me because this is a rather new concept, also to me, with the personas. If this may be half related to how I started this, but for example, if someone is not a politician anymore and does not want to use this persona anymore via the CKP mechanism that we add, people who are connected with that person, let's say open source developer with the open source developer persona label, know that this is the same person, right? Because of the underlying CKP mechanism.
Can I just throw in one more use case? So it is called decentralized trust graph. It's not decentralized identity graph. And so when you realize that the community or the person that introduced you to a group of other people turns out to be, in retrospect, untrustworthy, and now you call into question all of those introductions that were made, how do we retrospectively evaluate the trustworthiness of those individuals and score that separately? Is that a separate problem to solve, or
yes? Short
okay.
answer is yes. It's
Okay.
it's the the layer on top. The simple base mechanism is credential revocation, whether it's at the PHC level or it happens at the VRC level. You literally say, I don't want that connection anymore. But how you would communicate with others about a bad actor, that's a perfect topic that's already coming up in the risk assessment and harms prevention task force. But I want to make sure that we have time for the second half of the agenda and Brendan Alberto. So Martina, great work. Again, feel free. Some people have joined late to add the link again. I copied it once, but you might want to add it again to the chat. Yeah, fantastic stuff. It's getting richer by the day here. And so thank you, Martina. And yeah, lots of applause coming in. And Brendan and Alberto, over to you for our second topic on your new proposal.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Martina. It's wonderful to have such a easy to follow visual. And I'm hoping that what we're going to be presenting here is aligned from what I could tell it was. So that's generally good with a few slight changes, updates. Drummond, how long would you like me to take for just kind of walking through this? I want to leave time for questions and anything else.
Well, we have a half an hour. I think the risk assessment harms prevention just has a short update at the end of the call. So I think the next 25 minutes between what you want to present and the Q&A you want to have about it, because I know there's a lot here. So just however you want to divide it up.
Okay, great. So I'll try not to go too long so that we can be guided by folks' questions and comments. So again, this is prepared as a community service, trying to synthesize what we're hearing from everybody. In particular, I just would draw your attention to this discussion from Drummond that was on the repo, where he proposed some simplifications, which reflected some conversations that he and others were having. So trying to follow that with a couple small additions and tweaks. So it's on a branch. I made an issue as well, just so we kind of track this for this version point 2, if you will. So it's still a very early draft, and interested in all your comments and feedback. Here, the main file we'll be focusing on is this DTG file. I wanted to just mention I did update the witnessed VRC flow in light of these changes. And I added this file, which is more just, to help us understand how this decentralized trust graph can be used for certain use cases. And so it's just a start. It's not a part of the standard or anything like that, but it seems like these use cases come up frequently, and we want to make sure that our spec, meets all the various use cases. So diving in to this, let me see if I can just walk you through this. So one of the things that happened was, and it was in Drummond's discussion, was the idea of what was called a rel type, or relationship type. And upon some additional reflection, that is an important distinction, but we wanted to move it to the type, the actual credential type field, which I'll explain. But there's a few different interlinking ones. I'll highlight the one that were in Martina's, just so that it's super clear. The relationship credential, so that's the directional relationship edge between two entities. So that aligns with her diagram. We also have the persona credential, so that allows you to share your specific persona or context without creating a new edge. The persona credential, this is, some kind of proof of your personhood. One thing that is newer, and this is for discussion, I think this could be, partly a lively topic. Personhood, in the sense of the paper, for example, that recent paper from OpenAI and various other folks, personhood is a very specific need. How do we know you're dealing with a real person online? And it's likely that there's going to be a high assurance level. You could imagine, what is OpenAI going to trust? What is Google going to trust? Meta, or of course, any of us. And so there will likely be some standards about what a personhood credential is. So that's like a high assurance level that you're dealing with an actual person. This community credential is a more flexible version of that, where some community basically says you're a member in their community. And so, for example, my local softball team, maybe in the future we use VRCs for keeping track of our membership list and scores and things like that. We don't want to be in the business of trying to meet the standards for personhood credentials, right? That's going to be way beyond us. But this structure can certainly, help those kind of communities as well. So a community credential is really very similar to a personhood credential, just for this more general lower assurance use case. So that's the intent of introducing that. Some things you may remember from the previous spec is endorsements or vouches. So again, this is the idea of something that does not create an additional edge in the graph, but adds some additional endorsements or vouches, to annotate that. And then a witness credential. So this is some kind of witness, that can attest to the formation of a relationship credential in a certain context. So for example, let's say we're all at a certain conference, and there might be some device on the network which is witnessing VRC formations at that event, and can add an additional level of assurance or attestation there. We also, in the white paper, is the relationship card. So again, that follows this idea of, like a business card, something that allows you to give human readable information to the other party. I say human readable. I think, we're imagining that that's the use case for that. So there's some definitions here. I think they're generally consistent with what Martina presented and what's been discussed. So the credential type hierarchy. So we propose that there's sort of this would be like an abstract kind of parent class for all the others. And these would be actual, kind of credential types that would be instantiated, the ones I just mentioned. Here's a little diagram that tries to illustrate how these things work, a different view than what Martina presented, but again, hopefully consistent. So I'll start with the things that we've all been discussing, like a personhood credential. So you have the PHC DID trust anchor, and so there's a trust registry there. The community DIDs may or may not, it's not listed here, they may or may not have their own trust registry, but they're certainly not trying to meet Google and Meta standards of personhood. One thing this was coming up in some conversations, this question about personhood versus community membership. Let me just give you a couple other examples to see how this will probably expand over time. For example, you could have a national government personhood, which would be a higher, even still level of attestation. That would be, another type that we might see in the future. You might also have things where personhood and endorsements come together, like an AWS certified engineer. Maybe those are also a subclass of these where it's some additional levels of assurance that people want. So personhood is a critical first um, uh, kind of standard that folks are interested in, but there'll likely be other standards. So as Martina said, this red line here, that says it was bolded in hers as well. So hopefully consistent. That's the VRC graph edge. Again, here you see the endorsement, the R card, VCC for membership, the persona, and then a witness to witness. Let me skip ahead. So the credential itself has been highly simplified from the previous one. So the issuer is the person issuing. So if Alice is offering to Bob, Alice is the issuer. And then the credential subject is the person or entity receiving the credential. There's a valid from. That's the date nomenclature used in version 2 of the W3C credentials. And so basically all these credential types will have the type, the issuer valid from, and possibly valid until. For specific credential subtypes, there'll be things like the endorsement data. Didn't try to specify what that endorsement data is. That'll be determined later. The card we said would probably be something like a J card data, and the witness will need some kind of witnessing context. This graph is also this table here is relatively helpful. By the way, I'm not able to track the chat, so if anything's important, please just interrupt me. If there's I'll try to wrap up with my summary in a minute or two here. But if there's any clarifying questions or anything like that, let me know. So, for the VCC, we have the issuer, the subject ID, and whether this creates an edge. So hopefully this kind of keeps it all very simple. Again, should be aligned with what Martina said, where the only thing that creates the entry is the VRC, the edge, the DTG edge. The VRC is the only thing that creates that. Everything else is either a node or an annotation on that edge.
So, Brendan, can I just quickly ask about that? That's interesting. So by node entry, uh, um, an individual, for instance, that's receiving a VRC I've considered the PHC to RDID, the second column there, to be an edge in the DTG graph as well. So I'm curious, what's the difference between what you call a node entry and the VRC edge?
Yeah, maybe this language can be improved. It is, of course, an edge also, but if you think about it, within a trust community, a context, it kind of gives you the identity within that community.
Yes. Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it's a different, I agree, it's a different flavor or color of edge. But okay, that's um the I just want to point out the VCC also you have as node entry, and I agree it's a node, whether it's a node in the trust graph or it's simply a node in the graph, because it's not a PHC issuing node. But I mean, we're down to the footnote level. So anyway, keep going. I
Yeah,
just wanted to ask about that.
yeah, and this I think this is something we should discuss in detail. So, the trust graph. At least it's my sense that there's not going to be one trust graph. Maybe there is for personhood if there's some organization or institution which determines how to properly determine personhood. But there will be various trust graphs, I think, that are overlapping in different ways. As I mentioned, a softball league, for example, that will be its own trust graph whether the rest of the world interacts with it and trusts information on that trust graph is that's up for them to determine. But so in any case, so I think we should flag that. So we'll definitely talk about this idea of personhood versus community credentials and if that's the right formulation. Um, so I'll just show these very quickly. Community credential is just issued from some kind of community to the members RDID. Personhood credential is very similar. It's from some PHC provider to their RDID. Um, uh, and relationship credentials. This is from one RDID to another. And there was some commentary from Drummond and others. I just want to flag this just so everyone is clear. So this does assume that you're generating a new RDID for every single entity you connect with, even within the same community. So this is a key part of this model, pairwise, private, and unique DIDs. So I believe that's what folks are thinking is the right approach, and so that's represented here. So here we go from Alice's RDID for Bob, and then to Bob's RDID for Alice. The persona credential is from some public persona, in this case, Banksy, is issuing one to a friend to show that they actually know each other. Endorsements, this endorsement format, I'm not trying to say that this is the right data. This is just an example at this point, but you can provide some endorsement data. And the witness is following the witness flow, very similar to before, trying to add attestation. Some of the data that was in the previous version of the witness credential has been pulled out, and we can handle it in the protocol, so it doesn't need to kind of gum up the credential itself. Our card, again, it's just from Alice to Bob, and it's saying how she would like her human readable attributes to be known to Bob. So those are all the different types. I'll stop there. I'm sure there's a lot of questions, and for sure, I think we should talk about this PHC versus VCC question. But yeah, I'll stop there for questions and comments.
Yeah, there is a lot here, and I think the best thing to do is, yeah, I'm going to add my congrats. There's a huge amount of work represented here, and so thank you, Brendan and Alberto. And so let's just start the question queue because there's a lot we could discuss. And I'm just looking at seeing if anyone. Oh, I'm sorry, Riza, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly on the question of liveness detection. I've been in this space of um, what's it called? Access control. And liveness detection is one of the key features and it's on a per session basis. So are we accommodating for that, or is that something we have to handle separately?
That's a question for you, Drummond, as well. I mean, the two things I'll mention here is you can put a valid from and a valid until that could specify, the scope of that credential. The trust registry will also be important to check for revocations and things like that. But that specific application, Drummond, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think if this is the same thing you were bringing up in the chat, Riza, um, liveness is a well, there's two ways that come up. I think the most common ways you're talking about liveness in authentication or interaction event where, yeah, it is as Nikki just put it, it's one method of verification. Now we have discussed one of the ideas of the witnessing of a VRC is that the witness, be it a person or a machine, an agent, could require a proof of liveness from both parties in order to verify, yes, in fact, you both were, the real people were there at the devices at the time the VRC was created. It's a perfect example of where the need for liveness could be built into an interaction protocol in order to achieve a trust objective. Of course, the other place you could need it is if you, as a DTG user, want to go and present a zero knowledge proof of your personhood to a site, the site could also say, "Hey, I need a proof of liveness," and that's where, again, in the context of an interaction, that could come in, and different trust networks. And the question has already come up as Brendan brought it up. Well, who's going to determine who are valid PHC issuers? Well, I think our broader answer to that is, well, that's what a trust network does. That's exactly why we're started the first person project to create the first person network to actually have governance over that type of thing. I fully expect we will then turn around and say, and these are the requirements around a liveness proof. And in order that the providers of those proofs, the different technologies you can use for that, can get certified to be able to do that. And you can verify, yeah, it's a valid liveness proof. It's a pretty deep question, but it's a really good one. And hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, just so long as we've got the hooks in there so that we can accommodate for it and not just ignore it and say, hey, liveness can be undermined by AI. I see Nikki said that. That will just mean we become irrelevant for real live use cases, real use cases. I think it's important that we have the hooks in there for liveness detection. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Just the one other thing I want to say about that is part of the strength of a trust network using the graph would be the assurance that personal credentials are only issued to people. And therefore, if you want to know for certain that it is not a person you're dealing with, then that the whole thing is challenging.
I get that part, Drummond, but when you are using the credentials later on a per session basis, you might
Yes,
say for this one, I'm okay for this to be an automation that goes out autonomously. It's still attributable to me. I'm still liable for it, but in some cases, I want to know that I'm actually dealing with a live human at the other end of this session. And so those are two important use cases we should accommodate.
100%, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Good. Okay. Other questions or topics folks want to bring up? I could talk about this for hours, but I want to give everyone else who's just seeing this a chance to. And here come Jorge. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Just a quick question, more of a request for clarification on the personhood credential. Is the standard for personhood credentials something that's gonna be a output of this working group, or is that being done elsewhere? I guess I wasn't sure earlier what Brendan was trying to allude to.
An extremely good question. I will jump on that right now to say that the governance policies for the use of the decentralized trust graph are not in scope for this working group. That's that line between the the technical standards and the governance models, and then actually implementing that in an ecosystem or an ecosystem of ecosystems, which is exactly what we expect. So it is a perfect question, and in fact, one that I'm happy to say, we're in deep discussions about that over in the first person network, the first person cooperative, because that's exactly what we're building a governance body to do. But the place to start with, that got a lot of us started with that whole consideration is the personhood credentials paper that came out August of last year. And it is a 63-page discussion of, well, what would those policies look like? And in many ways, we're here with this decentralized trustcraft working group because a project, the first person project, saying we need to actually go build this, said, okay, let's separate out the technical standards for what's needed from the policies that would actually be needed. And here at DTG, what we're tackling are the technical underpinnings against which those policies can be applied. And to Brendan's point, by any number of trust networks that say, okay, we're going to build a trust network on top of the DTG graph. Very much like, to complete the analogy, you have all kinds of networks out there built on top of TCP/IP. TCP/IP stack lets them all, interoperate, but they all have their own policies for how they operate. Same thing is true here. We've just elevated to the level of trust, which is why this is a trust OIP and DIF working group. So hopefully that answers your question, but it's a really good one.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, next questions. We have 7 minutes left, and Nikki, I know you're going to do the announcement, so you tell me when you need the last couple minutes to give an update on the risk assessment. But otherwise, are there any other questions? Because if not, I will ask one. I guess I will. So the of the discussions that have gone on in the GitHub, which is really fantastic. It's done just what we hoped. Once we formed the credentials task force and opened up the GitHub repo so we could have these deeper discussions there, that's led to this. The new kid on the block from those discussions that Brendan and Alberto introduced is this CDID, the community DID, that is the a community issued credential and a DID for that purpose that then does not have to be a PHC DID, because that community may not, again, be qualified. It's still a community, but it's not qualified under whatever governance framework to issue a PHC DID. What came up in a great discussion last night with several of us, including Glenn Gore, was, if that community literally, imagine it's not qualified to under a trust framework, a governance framework in a community. If it wasn't qualified and it's issuing CDIDs to community members, and let's say suddenly it qualifies, does it have to reissue? And that question came up. In other words, now those credentials can be considered valid personhood credentials. And my initial answer was, and I didn't have much time to think about it, it was already late at night, and I was like, I don't think it has to reissue. I think it's now going to literally, its status in a trust registry is going to change. It's now going to be listed as a qualified PHC issuer. So that literally will turn on that node in the decentralized trust graph in the context of that community, but the DID didn't have to change. I want to basically reflect that back or ask that question, at least of Brendan, Alberto, anyone else, on this question of CDIDs versus PHE DIDs. I'll put that out there.
Yeah, let me just say one thing. I think, this is an interesting question of, sort of how it would be upgraded. I want to give just another scenario which we have to think about, which is I hope that there's only one standard for personhood, and that Drummond is able to work with various other partners, and we have one global standard. But here's another question: what if there's multiple personhood trust networks that are competing for various maybe good reasons? um, you know, it makes me start to wonder if the idea of a personhood credential in the type field is not ideal, is that maybe there should be some identifier of, which specific, set of standards you're using for personhood. So I'm even making it a little bit more complex for you there, Drummond, just to kind of highlight the subtleties here.
It's a very good point. My head's already breaking. But that's a really it's a great point. I also love the fact in the chat that the intersection of what we're doing and the event going on right now that I'm speaking on, I think in about 10 minutes, on AI agent interoperability standards, they're already talking about, that I'm presenting because they want to know about, the decentralized trust graph and the first person project. So it's a really good question. I don't have an answer, a good one right now, but I think we should note that. I can't do it real time, but I will note it in the minutes, and I think we need to follow up on that. That said, I'm seeing now we have 2 minutes left, so I want to make sure that Nikki has time to provide an update. Nikki, if you still want to do that, she's still,
Yeah,
yeah, she's
sure. I mean, it's ultra quick. Basically, Sankashan has done a fantastic analysis using a slightly different approach, but we'll bring that, the work's progressing, never fear. And I think it's going to be a bit more productive because, as in all good GRC models, we've, identified that controls and policies are effectively requirements. So that's Sankashan has done fantastic work and has really moved us on. We also reviewed the paper that John Phillips had done on the specific question about ending relationships unilaterally. So in a, exploring how that worked with the right to be forgotten under GDPR. And so we've got some nice clear that obviously these are more kind of social harms, implications of the technology as opposed to the technology itself, but really good guidance for governance and perhaps for human experience in some of these interfaces and flows. So good progress, I would say.
That's excellent, Nikki. And I just wanted to make sure everyone was reminded that that task force now does have the risk assessment and harms prevention task force has a meeting on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific. I put a link to the trust
It's
review
it's
calendar.
actually 7 a.m. Pacific,
Oh,
I realized. So
my
a
bad.
little bit
Sorry.
earlier.
Okay. Correction, 7 a.m. Pacific. But in any case, it is all the meeting info is always current on the Trust RVP calendar, so you can always look it up there. And we invite other folks. I came to half of this last meeting and was head expanding. So that'll be going on there. Certainly, it's possible that this credentials task force work may start to require dedicated meetings as well. We're really getting into the meat of this right now, and I want to thank everyone for this. Please join the discussion in the GitHub. Brendan and Alberto, you started a discussion there. I don't have a link to it right now, but if someone can put it in the chat, I will make sure to put it in the minutes to discuss the proposal that Brendan and Alberto went over. And I'm even thinking if Martina can put a link in there to her diagram, and that way we could sync up on all these things. Last point, we have one more meeting next week before we will take 2 weeks off for the holiday break. So feel free at any point. You can always use the Discord channel to ping us about agenda items you want on next week. So we'll try and queue up the questions around this and give ourselves a lot to think about over the over that break. And we'll see everyone next week. And again, if you're interested in the patchwork event, wonder if I had that link handy again. I can put that in the chat. I did it earlier, but I was going to do it once more. I think I'll be speaking about all this in about 15 or sometime in the next half an hour. And if you got to go ahead. I will still take a second to find that link, and I will put it in the chat. So again, thanks everyone, and we will see you next week or in one of the, there it is right there. Copy that guy. So if you are interested in that patchwork event, that is the link, and I'm going to tell you it is a little confusing how to actually get all the way in. You have to say sign in, and then you have to click the button that says hold my place, and that will get you all the way in there. And again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Martina, Brendan, Alberto. This is a lot of progress. I'm having people, say, oh my gosh, this thing is just really moving. And I'm saying that's what market demand looks like. So glad you're here, and looking forward to next week. Please join those discussions. Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Bye all.